What is silly season? Silly season, that is the term you hear throughout motorsports at different times during the year, usually closer to right about now. As one season's about to close, we turn the page on it, we move into the next chapter. So as we go from 2025 to 2026, we're entering into what is all silly season between the end of this one and the beginning of next. I looked it up on Urban Dictionary just to give you guys the right definition. It says it's a term widely used in NASCAR community to describe the rumors on which driver may or may not be leaving the current team. So you basically replace NASCAR, put World of Outlaws, put High Limit, put 410 Sprint Car Racing. Silly season is here. So we're gonna deep dive into this topic on today's show on the YouTube channel. We've done it before, and it is crazy, I will say. Like in my short years of being involved in sprint car racing, I haven't been around for 30 or 40 seasons. There's definitely times where I thought like, man, like even last year I thought it was pretty crazy, and before that, like you see things happen. But this year has been by far, I'm going through Twitter on a random 3 o'clock and all of a sudden it's like, hey, everyone around me, did you hear the breaking news? That's happened quite a few times in 2025. And I'm not meaning to compare it to like big moments in the world, but like almost moments where you remember where you were when it happened. I remember right there being in Eldora when I refreshed it and the whole thing happened with Gio and KCP, and they've been together 5 years. I remember I was just up at my house and we were unloading after getting home from something, and all of a sudden it was like, dude, Donnie left TSR, or whatever happened with Donnie and TSR. And then like one of our group chats was blowing up. It's like, hey, Sheldon and the 17 are done, and what's happening there? Like just all these longer partnerships. Again, sprint car racing has always had this guy goes here and that guy goes here and the drivers swap and this and that and sponsors. But like this year, we've had major relationships, partnerships, teams that have been successful in the sport that are looking to do something different, and hey, that totally happens. I think a lot of us, we probably just get accustomed to seeing these pairings, and you don't realize how, like guys can split and go different ways, and all of a sudden, like, everything in the sprint car world's all shook up. So there's not necessarily one set thing that has caused this. Sprint car racing has been this way, 30, 40 years ago, guys were getting fired and hired, and like nowadays it's the same thing. The game just maybe looks a little bit different. One thing that is for sure though is there is more money in the game now than ever. And like that's not, I don't even think it's close. What we had, I think it's 9 $100,000 to win paydays. At least it's 100 grand to win. Some of those pay 190, 126, like maybe 250, like just crazy numbers, right? On both the Outlaw and the High Limit side. But there's more money than ever to win on the prize side of things, but also teams are spending the most that they've ever spent as well. So there's just a ton at stake, and I think that, again, all drivers, all owners, all crew guys, like everyone's competitive. So whether you're racing for 10 or whether you're racing for 100, like still everyone wants to win just as bad. But I can tell you this, when guys are spending as much as they're spending in this sport and people are putting in the time and the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears, and they're not getting the results, or they're just not one of the top guys. Again, we're seeing some pairings that like are still top 10 teams in the country or top 15 teams, top 20, and things are going sideways because everyone just wants to be in the number one spot. And I get it. I'm in that position as well. I'm a competitor. So below more money, I wanted to touch on how there's more drivers than there actually are quality rides. And unfortunately, this is just how things are, and like I don't know if it'll ever go back the other way, but there's just so many drivers, the second that there's an open seat, that the phones are ringing off the charts for drivers that want to get in that race car, where there's not necessarily just a lot of cars that are sitting without drivers, or at least quality. If there's a quality team, like there's not so many quality teams and not enough drivers to fill seats. And I think that's also a reason sometimes you see like guys in and out, is because like, well, if this guy doesn't work, like we're going to find someone else to wheel it, and then we'll find someone else to wheel it, or this or that. And again, at the top level, you don't see the musical chairs as much. I feel like there's almost a tier below it where you have guys that are like almost trying to find their footing and get what they need to be, on that national level, where the national level, they're at least usually working together for half a season or a year before things split and go sideways. And then you see a lot of, again, longer term partnerships that go 3, 5, 7 years. And if you can kind of get to that range, man, you're really doing something, because in racing, it's definitely more rare to see guys racing that long together. And especially nowhere near like Donnie being at TSR for 18 years. Like that's just unheard of. So more money, honestly, has just made it more cutthroat. That's That's the best way to put it. Now, I also feel like it's became more cutthroat just because everyone is almost so fast. I hope you guys like my notes here. More money, it's more cutthroat. It's also more cutthroat because everyone is the same speed. Everyone is so close. And like, that's what I try to tell people, and I think like fans that don't get it, like there's some, like when you're sitting in the stands, like it looks a lot different than when you're on the other side of the fence. Let me tell you, some of the guys that are battling for 12th or 15th or 18th are almost just the same speed as the leaders. They're just not in clean air, and they're racing just as hard as the guys in the top 3. I've been a part of it at High Limit and World of Outlaws shows. Like, there's definitely times where guys are racing just as hard throughout the field. It's just, you know, hey, how did the night play out? How did everyone qualify? How'd the heat races? And again, not saying every driver is the exact same. Some guys are better than others, but anyway, our cars are all so equal, and we're all separated by this much every single lap. Again, it makes it so cutthroat, and every driver is just trying to be on the right side of, I guess, that average, right? And to consistently be up front. And with all that, and I don't know if you guys will believe me, but I think one of the best things is that the last 2 years, you know, we've had 2 national series, High Limit and the World of Outlaws, because with how many national guys or teams that are traveling a lot, maybe they're not national, but even kind of like us, like we're running quite a few outlaw and high limit races a year. By the time you add us all up, if we were all at one show almost every single night, like there'd be too many there'd almost be too many cars. And some people will say, well, like, no, I want to see 50 or 60 cars every single night. And realistically, with the business model of sprint car racing, like for the tracks, for the drivers, for the series, like that just doesn't make sense. You know, actually having both series have allowed more teams to make money, like do it, travel, get point fund at the end of the year, get travel money, or for the guys that are just wanting to hit a lot of big shows, pop in, kind of race wherever, make your own schedule. And it's been good because, again, it comes back to everyone is so close in speed. I also think with everything going on, there's just so many variables. Like there literally is just so many variables, you know, that are contributing to what is going on in the sport. You know, all these different teams on the market, you know, they have 2 series to choose from. They have a lot going on with sponsors, maybe on both the driver and the team side. It's hard to find crew members nowadays. You got to have a good team to go and win the money. Equipment, which equipment now is not as hard to come by, but still there's some of that, and these teams have to have so much of it. So a lot of those moving parts are playing into the different decisions of silly season as drivers go to new homes, and teams are trying to get drivers to come to them, and drivers are working the phones nonstop to arrive at a different team and make something happen, get a deal together. And that's another thing you kind of have to remember. A lot of what our sport is built on is kind of like handshake deals. Drivers aren't necessarily on salaries. I'm sure there are a few out there, like it's more rare, but most guys aren't on salaries. Most guys don't necessarily have like a contract. It's just like, hey, you're gonna drive my car, like we work out the details and you come run, and then like eventually at some point if we're done, it's like, hey, you're fired or I quit, and then, you know, you see it all over social media, and then this guy's on to the next one, and this guy's hiring this guy. And so that's simply what silly season basically is. And I feel like we, again, have a lot probably ahead of us on what's going to happen. Again, not just with drivers and teams, but also teams going from one side to the other between Woo and High Limit. Just as both sides are trying to kind of raise their stock, you know, put more money out there, and they're competing against each other. Like, I think a lot is going to happen, and we're probably going to have some jaw-dropping moments the next few months as we get into the winter and things slow down, and again, announcements are made. And I don't say that like I know something's going to happen that you guys don't. I just have a feeling like we've kind of seen the trend, right? Like it's probably going to be big with how things have already been in the middle of the year, and now we're kind of coming up on end of the high limit year. We're going to be at World Finals for the Outlaws, like all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I just thought it'd be a fun topic to kind of touch on today and give you guys just a little bit of insight, because sprint car racing right now, more cutthroat than ever, more intense than it's ever been. So many quality drivers, so many quality teams, and the most earnings that these guys have seen, you know, in the history of what we're doing. Now, before we end the video today, I did want to show you guys our new Diecast cars, which are available on shop tannerholmes.com. These are by far my favorite like merchandise. Like, it's so cool to have a little replica toy car. And then also we have the bigger scale. These are 1/50th scale, same with that Tarleton one. And then we have the 1/18ths, which are more like the collectible, you know, way bigger. I mean, I guess you could still consider it a toy, but it's a collectible. And we wanted to do cars for both of my rides for the season, right? So you could remember 2025. So anyway, they're available on our website. They're shipping out every single day. We have both the little ones and the big ones. And yeah, just a awesome piece of memorabilia. We sign them all, send them out the door. Kind of funny, sometimes during silly season, diecast turn into a hot commodity quick when drivers are leaving certain rides and partnerships end and stuff like that. So it's kind of a crazy market. So just to summarize, as we roll into the off season, keep an eye on the 17 car, keep an eye on the TSR 15, keep an eye on the KCP 18. Those are the ones we for sure know, like, there's gonna be some change, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if there is, you know, 2, 3, 4, like at this point, like nothing surprises me. Like, I think there's just gonna be shakeups all around the board because again, what we do is so difficult. Spend 70, 90 races a year on the road. Guys are together, packed in hotel rooms, packed in haulers, packed in rigs. I tell people it's not necessarily maybe the greatest way to live, probably not how this was all designed, but you know, a lot of us love it and we want to compete at a really high level and want to win big races. And like, at the end of the day, there's only one guy that wins and there's usually 30 or 40 that go home disappointed. And then you pack on the owners and the crew members and everyone that's so invested, partners. So like, you can see how this can, why we're in this spot and why silly season is the way that it is. But thanks for watching. We'll keep you guys up to date. We're working hard here in Southern Oregon, continuing through our 2025 season and looking ahead at big things in 26. See you in the next show. Deuces.